I'm going to be in John chapter 18, if y'all want to turn there. You good? Okay. That's too loud? Okay. Yeah, I don't know how long it's been since I preached on a Wednesday, actually. It's been quite a long time. I'm going to be in John chapter 18, verses 35 and 36. I'm sure a lot of you know this one, or this particular moment. When Jesus is arrested and he's standing before Pilate, he says something that is so cool and so savage. I really like that word savage. I didn't really get what it meant until I actually looked it up. Savage is another way of saying, like, somebody is, I guess it's more of like a rebellious attitude. Because believe it or not, when it came down to the Pharisees and religion, Jesus was a bit of a rebel. I mean, I definitely wouldn't call somebody that goes into a temple and drops everybody out, very, if you hear about that story, you're like, oh no. When I get up to heaven, I'm gonna lock myself in my house, or whenever heaven comes down to here, I'm gonna lock myself into my house, and I'm not going to mess with any animals because I don't really feel like getting whipped out of my house. But that was the thing I liked about Jesus, because Jesus wasn't always butterflies and rainbows and kisses and hugs. Because it was the same Jesus that had the mercy and the grace enough to die for us that did drop those people out. And actually, whenever the man had the shriveled up hand, you weren't allowed to do any work on that day.
That's right.
You weren't allowed to do any miracles. You weren't allowed to pray for anybody. You didn't do anything that they would consist as working. But Jesus is off the subject. But Jesus, right there in front of the Pharisees, honestly, I think he kind of had the dad mindset and made sure they were watching before he did it. But he walked up, and the man's hand was shriveled up. Pretty much, long story short, told him to stretch it out. He stretched his hand out. It was healed. And the Pharisees were like, "What's wrong with you? You give it to it out on the Sabbath." But he's like, "I didn't do anything. I just told him." And, he was the one that did all the work. So, but anyway, yeah, I'm going to be in John chapter 18, verses 35 and 36. In the King James Version, it says, whenever Pilate was talking to him before the crucifixion, it said, Pilate answered, "Am I a Jew? Thine own nation and the chief priests have delivered thee unto me. What hast thou done?" Jesus answered, "My kingdom is not of this world. If my kingdom were of this world, then would my servants fight that I should be delivered to the Jews? And now is my kingdom not from hence." And in the other version, which I don't really know what version it is, but it's different. It says, Pilate answered, "Am I a Jew? Your own people and the chief priest handed you over to me. What have you done?" Jesus answered, "My kingdom doesn't belong to this world. If my kingdom belonged to this world, my followers would have fought to keep me from being handed over to the Jews. My kingdom doesn't have its origin on earth." And then Pilate persisted and asked him if he was a king, and Jesus said, "Yeah, I'm a king." But I'm not really going to talk about the savageness or the sassiness of Jesus. I'm going to talk about your place in the your place in the family. Because any of you that know anything about like Queen Elizabeth, you know that she's the queen, and then Harry and William. Is that right? Prince William, Prince Harry, and Prince William. Anyway, they're the sons, and whenever she croaks, but she's like 145 now. But whenever she croaks, one of them is going to inherit. Inherit that spot on the throne as the king. No disrespect if you ever watch this, so sorry. But in like a few instances, Jesus references the kingdom, and he also, I guess, in a sense, is showing how he's not conformed of this world, because with Jesus, it didn't really matter what anybody told him. It didn't matter how many times he was tempted. He never fell because he was perfect. And he never conformed to the things of this world, such as lust or like murder or stealing or anything like that. So like a lot of the times we find ourselves, I guess in a sense, we find ourselves conformed to like the way of the world a lot of the times, even as church people, because I don't think anybody can stand here and not raise their hand whenever I ask how many of us have messed up this week, because like we all have. But I'm going to be preaching on the title of my message is called "We Are Worth So Much More," and I actually got this message from a song that I wrote regarding some of the things that have been told to my girlfriend and to a lot of other people here recently about the kingdom, because for like a really long time, my girlfriend was an orphan. Like she didn't really have like a stable home. And the first thing that I believe, one of the first things that Dad told her, or that God told her through Pastor, was, you're not an orphan anymore. And that's the thing that I love about Jesus, is because whenever we we feel so lost, or like we don't have a home, he brings us in. Whenever we don't have a family, he gives us like the family name, I guess, as you told her. He brings us in, and he allows us to become kings and priests and princesses, and it's just amazing the way that he loves us. And if you can, will you please go over to John chapter 14? I'm going to be reading verses 1 through 3. I know my dad's actually spoke on this before here pretty recently, but it says, "Let not your heart be troubled. Ye believe in God, believe also in me. In my Father's house are many mansions, and if it were not so, I would have told you. I go to prepare a place for you." In my version, it says pretty much the same thing. Don't be troubled. Believe in God and believe in me. My Father's house has many rooms. If that were not true, would I have told you that I am going to prepare a place for you? And then Jesus follows that up with, "If I go to prepare a place for you, I will come again, and I will bring you into my presence, so that you will be where I am. You know the way to the place where I'm going." I believe, so we just read what Jesus said to Pilate about, my kingdom is not here on earth. And then, now he's telling Thomas that he's going to prepare a place for him in the kingdom of God. And I believe that Jesus wants us to understand more about the kingdom than just the promises. I believe that Jesus does this not only to prove a point, but also not to prove a point that the world can't hold him, but also the fact that we are royalty and we are worth so much more than we actually give ourselves credit for. Because it says he's going to prepare a place for us. And that word mansions in Greek means dwelling place. So he's going to prepare a place for us. And I don't know if we actually are able to grasp how amazing that is. Because in a spiritual sense, Jesus is going to build, take it personal, by the way. Jesus is going to build you a place to worship God. Forget about everybody else. Jesus is going to Jesus is going to build you a place for you to worship God. A place for yourself. And I think, that's another way of God showing us how much we mean to him. Because, Ryan said it before, Jesus and God, they don't really put a whole lot of emphasis on gold because we're going to walk on it. But he does put a lot of emphasis, he puts a lot of emphasis on us. He's done it to me so many times, and I hate it because it makes me cry every time. But I'll be looking up in the sky, and I'll see the stars and the moon, or the sun, or we'll be up in the mountain, and we'll see this beautiful scenery, and Jesus is this is amazing. And Jesus is well, it's not that amazing. I mean, honestly, I put you up higher than all of that. And I think you are the most beautiful thing that I've ever created. It also says that we're going to be kings and priests. So, that's also really amazing. Because, Jesus is the King of Kings. And to think that we even get to serve under him. We don't deserve that. And he's also told me this every time he's told me something like that. I was like, God, I don't deserve this. He's like, you think I care? But, it's simply amazing. And the way that he loves us. And whenever we don't know who we are is actually the greatest place to be, because that's whenever you're so broken and you have no idea who you are, so that makes it easier for Jesus to come down and tell you who you are. And Jesus is calling us royalty, because I said before this past week to a girl that I showed about our house, she didn't have a place to live, and me and Dad had told her the same thing. Actually, Dad stole my line. But I said, the streets is no place for loyalty. The streets is no place for a child of God. The streets are no place for a king or a prince or a princess or a queen. Because, we're royalty. We can have better than that. And that's the thing that we need to understand. I know a lot of us have confidence issues, but, you're royalty. You deserve better than what you give yourself and what you allow yourself to have, if that makes sense. You deserve to be happy. You don't deserve to walk around depressed all the time. You don't deserve to cry yourself to sleep at night because you feel so lonely, or you don't deserve to drink yourself to death or to shoot up every single day until you overdose. You don't deserve to to cut yourself even. You don't deserve to put yourself under any kind of pain or any kind of distress because you are royalty. You know, like the prince, like the princes in England, they have it really good. They have it amazing. Because all they've known was a silver spoon their entire life. I mean, yes, given I'm pretty sure they're very good people, but that's the way we need to be. Not in a sense of like, you know, like you all have been told, you know, like, well, that kid was born with a silver spoon in his mouth because everything was given to him. Well, I mean, in reality, in the spiritual sense, it's that way with us. Because in the spiritual sense, everything was given to us. Therefore, spiritually, we were born with a silver spoon in our mouths because we're royalty. Does that make sense? Yeah. So, I'm not saying, you know, go around and act all snobby, but, you know, go around, you know, with your head held high because you're a child of the King. And another thing, children that grow up in the kingdom, that grow up in the palace, children of the queen or children of the king, they get whatever they want. All they got to do is ask for it. Like Jesus doesn't require us to give anything back. It's good for us to, but he doesn't exactly, you know, like he didn't die for us just so that way, you know, we can be like, oh, you know, I owe you everything now. No, he died for us so we may have an off chance of accepting him and accepting that love back, if that makes sense. I feel like I'm getting like almost combobulated. But, you know, Jesus, I guess, in a sense, Jesus doesn't expect anything in return. He would like to get something in return, but he doesn't expect it because, you know, it's like your kids for Christmas. You're going to get your kids, you're going to try and get them whatever they ask for, and you don't expect a thank you. You don't expect very much appreciation, really. You just do it hopefully to make them happy and to make their day. That's the way Jesus did. No, Jesus doesn't. I believe that, you know, like he doesn't exactly demand love and demand respect because he is a gentleman. He's not going to force you to love him. He's not going to force you to respect him, but he's going to show you different things, and he's going to put you in certain situations, you know, where you have the option of either realizing, you know, okay, so I need to respect this guy, and, you know, I need to love him because, you know, he's doing these remarkable things for me. It's either that or you need to realize, you know, okay, I'm going to love this guy and I'm going to respect him because he died for me. You know, not necessarily love him and respect him based on the works that he's done, but love him and respect him based on what he did for you. I guess, not like the works, you know, like the miracles and stuff that he's performed, but, you know, like resurrecting and loving you whenever you can even look at yourself in the mirror. That kind of Jesus. That's the Jesus that deserves the love and the admiration. That was like a bunny trail. My bad. Another thing, in Genesis it says that the Spirit roamed over the face of the deep, roamed over the entire earth, and I believe Dad said it in a way like the Spirit was over the entire world, right? And that same Spirit is living in us. I don't see how that's possible, really, because, you know, nobody can ever actually understand how vast and, humongous the world is. But, how something that humongous and that enormous and gigantic can live inside of us is simply amazing. But, another thing, that's Jesus showing, I can be all over the world, but I can also be in you. And, yes, like Jesus does, speak to the church as a whole, but a lot of the times, we don't ever take it personal. And if we can just find a way to take it personal, then, we can get a better connection with God. There's a sticker on y'all's on Dad and Mom's mirror in their bedroom that says, "I will love you forever and always." I believe I told you this Sunday. But it says, "I will love you forever and always." And Jesus pointed that out to me, and he said, "I'll love you forever and always." And so I cried. But I have just as bad of a problem accepting my place in the kingdom just as much as anybody else. Excuse me, I picked up a bit. Jesus, he doesn't do all of these wonderful things for us to turn around and be like, "No, I'll give you everything. I'll give you all of me." He does it because he loves us and because that's what a good father does. You don't love your kids just so that way they can love you back. You love your kids because it's your kid, whether they love you back or not. That's the way that God is with us. And I believe a lot of the times he's up there scratching his head whenever we're going around in all this self-doubt, like worthlessness and pity, and we just feel so lonely all the time. And Jesus is up there scratching his head like, "I died for you, and my Father is your Father. My Father is a king, therefore that makes you royalty. Why are you walking around with your head held down? Because you have so much more to offer the world than just depression." Amen. Or anxiety, or suicide, or drinking, or drugs. You have so much more to offer them. That's right. You offer them the same thing that I gave you, the same thing that's living inside of you, the same thing that has been here since day one of the universe. The same thing that roamed over the face of the earth thousands and thousands of years ago is still alive today. He's the same thing that comes to you, the same thing that formed the earth, that formed the foundations of the earth, is the same thing that comes to you and tells you, "I love you." Okay. That's a very deep statement. I realize now, whenever I preached with the eyeliner and the fingernails, that was weird. But it was also Jesus showing me that, I have no limitations with you. There is no place you can go that I won't follow you. I heard God actually tell a man one time at a church in Charleston, "If you made your bed in hell, I would tuck you in, because there is no place that I wouldn't go." I believe that's what he said. But that blew my mind, because it's like we weren't raised around this Jesus that could go that far. We seen it a few weeks ago, how far Jesus would go for one person, one girl. Jesus made an entire sermon, an entire service just for one person. I mean, he's done that, twice now in our church? I mean, guys, Jesus is wanting us to grasp, this is how far I would go for you. Like that song, Reckless Love says, there's no mountain I won't climb up. There's no shadow I won't light up. There's no wall I won't break down. There's no lie I won't kick down. I think that's what it says. But there is nothing that's in your heart or in your mind, or like there's no person, there's no drug, there's no addiction that could ever stop you, like that could ever stop God from coming down and changing you, or even just coming down and telling you that He loves you. Because whenever I was backslidden and I was doing all these things, the only time that Jesus ever showed up, He showed up one other time whenever I was sober, but the only time that Jesus ever showed up during that time to tell me something, or to just be with me, was whenever I was drunk. And a lot of people won't believe that. A lot of religious people won't believe that because, they're like, well, Jesus, He won't do that. Really? It says that Jesus is a friend of sinners. You don't think that there was drunks in the Bible that Jesus wasn't friends with? I mean, seriously. Jesus is just so, I don't know, there's not a word to describe him. I would say Jesus is everything, but that's cliche. But He is everything. But not even everything can describe Him. Can describe the beauty and the love that He possesses for each and every one of us as individuals. I'm not talking about the church as a whole. I'm talking about, all of you individually. There's nothing Jesus wouldn't do for you. Because if Jesus can come to me, I think Jesus chose to come to me whenever I was drunk. The only time He ever came to me whenever I was drunk at that time. I think He did that to show me that there's nothing that there's no state of mind that I could be in that, He won't come down and talk to me. He won't come down and be with me. Because, if you get in a relationship, or you get married to somebody, and, they go out and get drunk and they come home. And, you're living the best Christian life you possibly can, and they come home drunk every single night. Are you going to just ignore them? Are you going to roll over and go to sleep every single night without kissing them, or telling them you love them? Are you just going to ignore them? No. I mean, if you do, it's not a marriage, but I don't know, I'm 20, what do I know about marriage? But I know this much. I know that there was a time where when I was at my lowest point ever, Jesus came to me with no restrictions, no limitations. Jesus didn't come to me and be like, okay, yeah, I'm going to love you and I'm going to come down and be with you, but only if you do this. No. He didn't care. That's a love that none of us can ever give another person, ever. He didn't come to me frustrated and annoyed and angry. Every single time He came to me, He told me it'll get better. And I'll love you every step of the way. I don't care what anybody else says. I'm not that Jesus. Because I had battled with, was this really Jesus? Because the Jesus that I'd always been taught about, He wouldn't come to me like this. Jesus said, but I'm not that Jesus. This is me. I'm this Jesus. I mean, yes, you're going to have to get better, but
if I don't want to make you better in one night, I don't have to. If I want to gradually make you better, I'm going to do that. Because you are on my time, not the world's time, not religion's time. You're on my time. And I understood that. And after that, I came back and I understood, the love that Jesus had for me was so much bigger than I ever thought it was before. Not to boast or anything. Dad said that I was pretty connected with the Holy Spirit. I guess honestly, I don't feel like that, but I hardly ever feel like that. But whenever He does come to me, He doesn't treat me like a person that used to do drugs or a person that used to drink. He doesn't treat me as a person that used to do all of these things. There's still no restrictions. He treats me as a prince. He treats me as royalty. And He treats me with so much love and respect. Whether I love Him or respect Him back, it doesn't matter. He comes down and He just pours out everything. And I love that about Him because He's not a Jesus of restrictions. See what Stephen Furtick posted this on Instagram, but he said something along the lines of, what the world calls rejection, God calls protection. If that makes sense. I guess it's another thing that has to do with conformity because religion is a part of the world, and what he meant by that was, what we reject from religion, what they call rejection, God is calling protection over us. I don't know if I simplified that out enough, but it's like this. Jesus is an almighty King, worthy of so much more than we could ever give Him. But He wants us to know this one is as a church. He wants us to know that what we give Him, both as a church, as Broken Road Ministries, and as individuals, what we give Him is enough. And it always will be, as long as we give Him with 100% effort on our part. Not to toot our own horn or, to play the guitar for us, or play the guitar for somebody out in the audience, or play drums out in the audience for somebody out in the audience, or maybe to sing for somebody out in the audience. What he's talking about is, whenever we get really hyped up on stage and a really good build-up is coming, and that the Spirit's flowing, and I straight up try to break my guitar string because I'm playing extra hard. I'm not doing that to sound good. I'm doing that because I want to play my best for Jesus. I want to sing my best for Jesus. I know a lot of the times it sounds like a wailing goat, but it doesn't matter because as long as it pleases my God, as long as it pleases my King, as long as it pleases my dad. Not that dad, but that dad. As long as it pleases my dad, that's all that matters. And this is another thing for us. It's God said it's a lot easier to please me than you think. I was outside over there, kind of walking around before church Sunday morning, because I was nervous because I wasn't going to be there. The pastors weren't going to be there, and I was like, I don't know how this is going to go. But it turned out pretty good. But anyways, I was walking over there on the little concrete slab, and Jesus was like, you don't have to try to please me. I don't want you to try to please me. All you gotta do is just be you, and that's pleasing enough. Just because I love you. Just because I have this obsession with you that I can't control and I can't get over. And, like it burns in my heart. Every time you sing, every time you lead worship, or every time you preach, or every time you raise your hands, or every time you talk about me, it's pleasing. You don't have to do 5 songs in a service for me to come down and worship with you. Because it doesn't matter what you do. As long as it's for me, it's pleasing to me. You don't have to study extra hard to where you have a stroke or something, because that's not pleasing to me. As long as it comes from me and you actually do it for me, that's pleasing enough. So, as a church, as Broken Road Ministries, I think God wants us to know, this is going to sound weird, but we're trying too hard. All of the stress that we're under isn't from the world. It isn't from bills. It isn't from, well, yes, bills, but it isn't from, it isn't coming from out there. We're stressed because of us. God said it's undue stress. And it's stress you don't have to put on yourselves. You don't have to be stressed all the time. That's not me. That's not a Christian. That's not a pastor. Yes, there's moments where it can be stressful, but being stressful, like stressful moments, and letting it make you stressed is 2 totally different things. So Jesus is saying, you don't have to try so hard to where you're breaking your back just to please me. Because that's not pleasing to me anyway. I don't want you to try too hard. I want you to try enough. If you want to go above and beyond for me, that's fine. But I want you to just try enough. Stop trying too hard. Stop stressing over these stupid things, over these things that 10 years from now, or whenever you're in heaven in eternity, these things aren't going to mean jack. Whether you lose the church or not, you will never lose me, so stop stressing. Does that make sense? None of this matters. This building doesn't matter. This doesn't matter. This doesn't matter. Well, yeah, this doesn't matter. Our connection with God is the only thing that matters. Whether we're able to keep this church or not, that doesn't matter. In the long run, in eternity, Jesus isn't going to be like, oh yes, you can come in to the kingdom because you were able to keep your building going. No. We can't, it's not up to us to keep this building going, it's up to God, so give it to God. Yeah, so that has nothing to do with whatever I was going to talk about. But I didn't exactly know where I was going to go with this, but now I know. This is a reality check, I guess, as you would say. Jesus is giving us a reality check. Jesus is saying, it's not about what you can do for me. It's not about how great of a worship, it's not about how great of a singer you are. It's not about how good of a message you preached. As long as you did it with me in your mind and in your heart, whether it sounded like total junk or whether your message was all over the place, as long as it was for Jesus, as long as it came down to Jesus, like to you and Jesus in worship, or like as long as you were preaching for Jesus in the sermon, that's all that matters. Stop trying too hard. That's right. I believe that message, or that preaching part was for you. God said, stop trying too hard. He said, enough is enough. Not enough is enough, as in, just stop. He's saying, just your best is enough. because eventually you're going to drive yourself crazy because you don't feel like you did your best whenever, every single time.
That's right.
The presence is in this room, which means you did a good job.
That's right.
As a worship team, we may not sound very good, but we sound good enough.
Amen. That's right.
I know a lot of the times people are like, you have to go above and beyond for Jesus. Yes, but in this instance, if Jesus is saying, as long as you do your best, that's enough for me, then that's enough for Jesus. Stop trying at your part. Do your best. Do 100%. Don't do 110%. Don't do 150%. Do 100%. Do your best. If you have 150%, then you can do it. But if all you can do is 90% or 70%, and that's literally all you can muster out, then that's good enough for Jesus, even if it's not the whole 100%. As long as it's for Jesus, as long as you have Jesus, in your mind whenever you do it, as long as you're doing it with the intention of bringing the Spirit down, as long as it's not selfish, that's good enough. A lot of these people that have told us all these prophecies about people being, flooding into our churches, or, people just standing all in the audience. It's just standing room only. We're not going to get those people because we tried and tried and tried and tried to please God until we broke our backs spiritually. No, we're going to get those people because those people are going to see that our best is enough. Yes, we may have failures at times, and we may not be the greatest looking church whenever it comes to people, because we want the broken people, we want the screw-ups, we want the drug addicts. That's enough. We don't have to be wearing three-piece suits and preaching in front of 30,000 people that have everything figured out, because that's not Jesus anyway. Good Lord, I'm preaching in skinny jeans and a Nirvana t-shirt. But what I'm saying is enough. Jesus doesn't conform himself because I'm wearing a shirt that represented a punk rock band whose lead singer shot himself. That has nothing to do with it. Jesus is like, it's a cool shirt, I like the yellow. No, yeah, Jesus is like, yeah, it's a cool shirt, I like the yellow. Now let's get on to something that actually matters. That's so stupid, though. Honestly, that is the stupidest thing that the church could have ever preached about, ever actually tried to say that, Jesus isn't going to come to you if you aren't dressed appropriately. Seriously, Jesus is like, bro, not skinny jeans, dude. No, let's go on to something that I actually care about. Jesus isn't ready up there to hit us upside the head with a hammer. We already know that. But one thing that we don't know as a church that Jesus really wants us to know is, guys, stop. Please, just stop trying so hard to where you're breaking your backs. I'm not saying to just stop in general, but just stop trying too hard. Just try enough. Good enough. I know me and Dad have said it a lot with preaching and worship leading. Not good enough. I bet it will never be enough for Jesus. Which is stupid. I've said that. I don't know if you ever said that. But it is. It's more than enough. Our 100% is Jesus' 200%, 300%. Because he looks deeper than your Nirvana shirt or skinny jeans. He looks at your heart, something that actually matters.
That's right.
But enough is enough. That I did actually mean to stop. Enough is enough with the trying too hard and the pressure that you guys feel. Enough is enough with worrying about whether you're going to be able to pay this or pay this or pay this. Just come and worship Jesus. Does that make sense? Hey, enough is enough whenever it comes to worrying about what people's going to say about us. I know a lot of the times, we're like, I don't really care about that, but think about it. All of us do. But enough is enough about that. And enough is enough whenever it comes to being so scared of the world. To being so scared to go out into the world. And, laying hands on people because we don't feel like we're worthy. Enough is enough with that. Jesus just told you you're freaking royalty. And I know we're not supposed to say that word behind the pulpit, but, I just did, I'm sorry, but, this is coming from God. But God is saying that there is pleasing me and, just pleasing me too much, if that makes sense. Because it's like, anybody ever had those friends that had ADHD? Me. And they come up to you and they say something that's really funny, and you laugh at it, but it was funny the first time. That's the way it is, but that's what God wants us to get. It was good enough the first time. We don't have to keep, going back to that because it was good enough the first time. Stop doing it over and over and over again. It was good enough. Our church is good enough. At the rate we're going, it's good enough. We'll get there. We'll get the people. We'll get the drug addicts. We'll get the drunks. We'll get the ones that have been hurt mentally, or physically, or spiritually. We'll get those people. But right now, in this moment, this is good enough. Because we're progressing. That's what Jesus wants us to know. As long as we're progressing, whether we get another soul in this door 100 years from now, as long as we're still progressing spiritually, it's good enough. Does that make sense? And another thing, God said, don't worry about the religious people. I know there's some of us in here that are so worried about religious people that we're afraid to breathe. Jesus said, I was a friend of sinners. I was a friend of sinners before I died on the cross. I was a friend of sinners while they were sinners. While they were dirty, while they were unclean, while they were impure. I was friends with them. I wasn't just friends with them, but I was obsessed with them. I didn't wait for them to get out of their dirty clothes and put on a three-piece suit because some stupid article of clothing isn't going to mean jack to me whenever you get to heaven. He said, don't worry about the religious people. He said, I'll handle them. He said they have what's coming to them. Trust me. He said they'll have it worse than anyone. Don't worry about them. I'll take care of it. You just worry about getting to me. Personally and as a church. I will bring those people in on my time. Don't worry about it. Don't stress over it. I got this. Everything is under control. Everything is in my hands. There hasn't been a thing that's went on in this church that I haven't either let happen or made happen. But every single thing went through me. Whether it was good, whether it was bad, whether it was something somebody said, I let that go through me. He said, from this moment on, everything good or bad that happens will go through me. So you can breathe, because if it's something bad, it won't be bad forever because it went through Jesus first. Jesus already opened the door to the, I guess, like all the bad stuff. I picture it in like a little house. It says Jesus already unlocked the door and opened it. All we got to do is just burn the house down. Speaking as, like all the bad stuff that are coming. Jesus already handled the blunt of it, like the brunt of it, and all we have to do is just finish the job. Because he said we're going on the right path. He's not worried about that. He said he is worried about us thinking that we're so down on it, like we're nothing all the time. That we're never going to be able to do enough to satisfy God. Well, it's like I'm never going to be a good enough worship leader for Jesus, or I'm always going to think that my messages are junk. Because I know each and every person that's ever stepped foot on the stage that has preached has always considered themselves as doing a terrible job. I know I have. But Jesus is saying, just stop. Shut your mouth. Shut up. Just shut up. Shut your mouth. Because it doesn't matter. As long as it was for me, as long as the purpose was for me, then that's okay. I'm not, he said, like a little infant, like a little toddler, if you ask them to go and color you a picture, you don't expect it to be inside the lines all neat and pretty, do you? Some 3 or 4-year-old coloring it? No. You take it, you think it looks, you tell them it looks amazing, you don't need it at all, but you put it up on the refrigerator for moral support. It's like that Jesus thinks that picture that we just colored looked amazing, and he's not putting it on the refrigerator for moral support. He's putting it up there because it was good enough. He's not going to throw it away and have us do it all over again. The first time was good enough. This had nothing to do with my message, but it's definitely something that our church here. Jesus said that it's finally time to give up, because we will never be good enough for God on our own strength. But as long as we have His Spirit living in us, as long as we activate that, wherever we go, that's good enough. Jesus said it doesn't matter if you prophesy to somebody and you don't exactly do it well. It's good enough. I mean, after all, I did send Moses, and he had a stuttering problem. He said, it's okay if he said it's okay if you're wrong every now and then. As long as you do it for me, that's good enough. Jesus said there's been so many times. He said he's done this so many times. That quench that we feel every now and then, that stoppage of the Holy Spirit every now and then, he said it's not from you guys not doing anything. He said it's from you guys trying to do too much. He said it's not that you guys aren't pressing in. He said it's just you guys are trying too hard. Just try enough to please me. I know this sounds kind of weird because we've always been taught our entire lives we have to try our best, give 200% to God. What if God only wants 100%? That's the reason we've had such hard times at moments worshiping is because as a worship team, we've tried too hard. We've tried to be perfect. Perfection. Jesus is like, I really could care less how perfect you are. As long as you do it for me, it's good enough. And another thing, as a worship team, we're going to have flaws, we're going to make mistakes. But we have to embrace the fact that we're family. And like he said, it's beautiful because, we're never going to look professional because we're family. God did that for a reason. Because people are going to come in here and they're going to see us. And, you have brothers and sisters at the house that fight all the time. It's going to make you feel like home. I mean, don't get me wrong. I don't mean, that like he thinks it's okay for us to fight, but, we're family. We're going to have some issues. But that's what's going to make our church good enough. Jesus said, what you guys call flaws and what you guys call mess-ups in the services, I call good enough. He said those mess-ups is where you should have stayed. You shouldn't have tried to go above and beyond, because honestly, I don't really want that. Because it's weird, it's like it freaks me out. But, like he said, a lot of the times we're like that kid with ADHD that, tells the joke and then goes on with it for like 2 days. He said a lot of the times we are. He said he's not getting on to us, but it's a reality check. He's not going to punish us for it. He just wants to talk to us. He's not going to yell at us. He just wants us to know that good enough is good enough. He said, I'll love you whether you mess up the service or not. It isn't going to change it. He said, if I want to send my spirit down, I'll send it down. Okay, you guys don't have to beg for it. That makes sense. I know I struggle with that a lot, begging. Because I don't deserve this. God's like, yes, you do, because I'm a king, which makes you a prince or a priest. I'm a king, which makes you a daughter, which makes you a prince or a princess or a queen. You're royalty. You matter to me more than anything else. And good enough is good enough. Is this making sense to anybody? I know this is a bit weird because I'm not really much for this kind of stuff, but we're not going to be the thing that makes our church. We're not going to be the thing to bring people in anyway. Like, we think we're just going to go out there and touch some people and pray with some people and they're just going to come in. No. If Jesus wants them to come in, they're going to come in. If Jesus wants His Spirit to come down, it's going to come down. We don't have to beg for it. We don't have to ask for it. We don't have to do a certain thing or pray a certain way or praise a certain way or read a certain scripture or preach a certain style for Him to come down. Because if anybody's ever heard me and Cassie, we're very in tune emotionally with the Holy Spirit. Because we understand an aspect of His love that says, I don't care what you wear, I don't care, I don't really care how you give off my message, just as long as you do your best. As long as you trust me. Jesus said, trust me. As a church, trust me. As pastors, trust me. Stop worrying about the bills. Stop worrying about the people out there, going out there and changing the world. Jesus said, trust me, I have everything going to plan right now. He said there's not a thing in our life right now that He hasn't put there, whether it's good or bad. There's not a thing in our life that He hasn't let come into our lives to teach us something, whether it's good or whether it's bad. He said it's there for a reason. Everything. Every single thing we're going through right now, every single thing we're going through financially, every single thing we're going through spiritually, it's Jesus. Jesus said, I let it be there, so let it happen. Don't try and run away from it. Accept it, embrace it. If it's bad, do something and, just do something pleasing. Because that's all I care about. That's all that matters. And, this is for you guys, the pastors. I've had a hold of Jesus said, I've had a hold of y'all. I've had a hold of our family, of your family. I've had a hold of both of you the entire time. There hasn't been a moment where I've let your hand go. Said, I'm letting you guys go through this fire and go through the flames, and go through all of this, go through this rough patch, so to speak, to show you something. Stop trying to get out of the fire and just walk through it. Jesus said, stop stressing over everything. He said, I'm going to make it better. It's going to be okay. He said, I'm going to make it better. You're not. I think, he really wants to make that clear with y'all. He's going to make it better. Y'all can't. Y'all absolutely can't. There's nothing y'all can do to make this better. It's Jesus. Jesus is going to make it better in his own time. But y'all aren't always going to be in this position. He said there's glory days ahead. He said there's going to be days ahead where we're going to prosper like never before. Because that's why you're going through this right now. Is so that way eventually you can prosper. Because you can't make it an amazing church, a humongous church, without going through some things. I mean, anybody that's watched Elevation Church or Elevation Worship, that they started out with 12 people in a Golden Corral. They didn't even have a church. We have it better than they have it. It took them 8 years to get where they are. We're only on year 2, year 1? He said, just don't worry. He said, you guys have a lot of the problems that they had. He said, you have a lot of the problems that Stephen Furtick had with the depression and the anxiety of, what's going to happen next? Are we still going to have the church? Are we still going to be, are we still going to be alive and kicking 4 or 5 years from now? I don't know if you ever wondered that. But God said, you have a lot of the same doubts. And this is the cool part. He said, but you also have the same vision. You're going to have the same outcome as that. Because that church is me, 100%. And this church is me, 150%. But I don't want that 50%. I just want 100%. Stop trying so hard. He said, if you give it to me right now, give me all of your worries, all of your anxiety, all of your stress, all of your problems. Give it back to me. You guys took it from me. But I want it back. He said, it won't take you guys 8 years to get there. I mean, that's cool. Because Elevation is cool. They're amazing. God said, if we really want to be like, he can make it happen. He said, notice I said, I can make it happen. Not you guys, not anybody you bring in. He said, I know you guys aren't musically sound right now. I know that. How many people do we have in here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We have 54% more people. We have 54% of the people on a bad day. We have over half of the people on a bad day that they are on a good day. He said, I'm not comparing it to tearing them down. I'm just showing you something. Humble beginnings is what's going to make our church thrive. Because he said eventually we're going to be able to look back and think, wow, this, that church was so small. Talking about us being in another church, looking back at this building and thinking, that building's like a little placemat compared to this thing. Jesus said that, prosperity is coming. All we have to do is just trust Him. And I know this may be past some religious boundaries, but Jesus said, I passed those religious boundaries whenever I was born. Said one thing he actually does appreciate is the way that we admire Him, the way that we look at Him. Because he said, yes, we may try so hard, but we always look at Him like, you are everything. You are my everything, and all I need is you, like that song was saying. He said, we have that now. We have the heart for this church now. But our work ethic is just too much. I know that sounds weird. No, I know that sounds weird. Because, we've always been taught by Dad, Dad's really adamant about this, yes. You need a great work ethic. Yes, we do. We do need a great work ethic. Jesus thinks you need a great work ethic. But Jesus also said that you don't need to work too hard. He said, we want you to be able to enjoy the fruits of your labor in the future. He said, if you continue the way that you guys are going now as pastors, he said, yes, y'all are going to get there. But y'all aren't going to enjoy the fruits of it. Because it's like you work in a house. If you work in a house and you want to try to get it done in 2 months, but your boss tells you that he wants to get it done in a year, if you get it done in 2 months like you wanted, you're going to be hurting really, really bad. You're going to be sore, and whenever the house does get done, you're not going to be able to enjoy it because you're hurting. It's the same way with this. Jesus said, we're trying too hard, we're trying to go too fast. We need to slow down, realize that He's God and He has everything under control. And there's nothing that He hasn't that come through this church that He hasn't had in His possession first. Whether it was a good thing or a bad thing, whether it was a spiritual hurricane or a fireball from hell, He let it come. He let it come. And another thing, He doesn't want us to let our heart break for the things that we go through out there to impact what goes through in here. He doesn't want us to let a bad day out there affect in here, because what that person did to you at work, or what that person did to you at school or at home has nothing to do with what Jesus can do for you here. Is everybody following me? Yes. I'm sorry if this is a little weird, but Jesus is just, he's there it is, good enough. I think I've said it like 1,000 times already, but it's good enough. Jesus wants you to know that it's good enough, especially for you two. It's good enough. Just stop trying so hard. Breathe. Lay down in bed at night, smile, kiss each other, go to sleep, have great dreams, wake up, and go to work, and enjoy the fact that you actually have a job that you pray for. It may not have been the actual job, but it's the money that you prayed for. God said, I can't keep giving you guys things. This goes for all of us, not just those two. But Jesus said, I can't keep giving you guys things if, it's not going to be good enough for you. Jesus said, if I brought 20 people in here right now, Jesus said 2 months from now, that wouldn't be good enough for y'all. And that's the problem. And which, he's not striking us down for that. He's actually saying, he admires us for that, but, we just need to quit and understand that if he did bring 40 people in right now, that's 40 more than what we had. 2 months from now, that's still 40 more than what we had. It's enough. Does that make sense? I'm trying not to disrespect y'all or anything. He sacrificed enough for us. As a church, spiritually, and out there in the world, physically, whenever it comes to jobs, Jesus sacrificed enough. So we don't have to worry about bills because he'll pay them. One way or the other. They may be a little late, but he'll pay them. Because he understands that you guys have kids that have to eat first. And Jesus puts us first before that. Jesus puts us before the bills. So Jesus is going to make sure we all get fed spiritually. Jesus is going to make sure whether we have this building or not, Jesus is going to make sure he's here. And by here, I mean with us. Here in us. Jesus said right now for some people out in the world, the church isn't the mansion or the dwelling place. For the sinner out there, we are the mansion. We are the dwelling place where they can come and they can receive it. If that makes sense. Jesus said mansions aren't built in a day. Mansions are built over time. But eventually, after they get done, they're beautiful. That's the same way with us. Rome wasn't built in a day. Everybody heard that before. But, Jesus said that this church is going to take time. But he just wants us to stop, step back, and go on a spiritual, or go on a mental vacation. And just leave the rest of it to him. And he said we're going to come back from that mental vacation and we're going to feel better than we ever have. We're going to be able to prosper like we've never prospered before, whether it's financially, spiritually, or mentally. We're going to be able to look back with no anxiety, no stress, no depression, no thoughts of, what was that good enough? Because when in the future, we're going to be able to look back and we're going to be like, yes, that was good enough. Because look at where we are now. If apparently that was good enough for Jesus, because look at how he blessed us. But he said this is the biggest reason why he's going to bless us, is because we're also going to look back and we're going to be like, that was God. That had nothing to do with me. Because of this sermon, this message right here, God's saying, I'm telling you guys to step back and to just breathe for a little bit. He just said, I've given you things to enjoy right now. Go and enjoy those things. Prosper in those things for right now. And then, let me do this. So that way you can look back and you can be like, that was God, because I stepped back. Because I let him take control. Does that make sense? Now, on to the good stuff. Like the things that God actually does enjoy. God enjoys us, I guess, if that makes sense. God enjoys us as individuals. Just even coming to church gives him joy. But even whenever we come to the church, a lot of our anxiousness and a lot of our fights and a lot of our strict talking tos And a lot of the hindrances have came from us trying to be something that we're not. Jesus said we're not a perfect church. You know, we're not a perfect church right now, so we don't have to be. All we have to be is a good enough church. And one thing that he does love about us is that we recognize him not only as Lord and not only as God, but we represent, we know him as Savior. We know him as, my Savior. We know him as Jesus and, my King, my love. We don't always, we don't just look at him like, you are my King and my Lord and I have to serve you. We look at him from a family perspective, from a royal perspective, like he is my King. But I also realize that I am a king. I am a prince under him. Yes, we realize we're under him, but we also realize our position under him. We're not servants in the kingdom. I mean, yes, we are, but you guys know what I mean? We're not the ones that serve the food, but we are the ones that set the table while the king sits there. Does that make sense? We realize our position with God, but we realize that we're not low on the totem pole. He's going to give us a break from all of the, the spiritual chewing out that he did. And she said, he's still pleased with us. But we tried too hard. And he's actually happy with the way that we perceive him. He's happy with the way that we approach people that come into the church. He's happy at how we represent him. Which is something that we've always wanted to do. We even have a picture of it, and it says represent him well. I know, Dad and me and Brother Russell and Cody and Ryan as ministers and worship leaders, we want to represent God well. And God's saying we're doing a really good job of that. You can kind of get lost on that as well. It is, it's like showing like a friend comes over and you show them a video game. You can show them that video game so much to where they just get bored with it. Because you're like shoving it down their throats. We don't have that problem. Because, we represent him with respect for the other person. Jesus said that's what he admires most about us. Is how we perceive him, how we perceive people. He said we're doing a good job, we're just trying too hard. He said, if there's if there's one thing that I want you guys to do, I've said it 1,000 times in this sermon, but I want you guys to just sit back and breathe and just let Jesus handle everything, whether it's bills at home or bills at the church, or things going on at home, or things going on at the church, things going on with you spiritually or mentally. Just let Jesus handle it. Give it back to him. Does that make sense? He said, it's weird. But he said, you guys aren't in trouble and I'm not getting on you. I just want you guys to know, just don't try too hard. If I tell you to cut the grass and just cut the grass. You don't have to trim hedges or anything. Said I'm never going to expect anything more from you than what you can muster out to give. Which means if you can only muster out 30 to 40, 50%, then he's going to take it. You know, he said, I'm always happy with it, as long as it's as much as you can do. If you can only do 10% or 20%, if that's truly as much as you can give out, then I'll take it and I'll be happy with it. If it is the best that you can do. Jesus said, if there's two things I want you guys to do, it's just to sit back, breathe, enjoy the fruits of your labor, enjoy the money that you're making right now. I know it may not seem like a lot, but eventually it will. We're going to be in a place where we're going to prosper. And he just wants us to stop trying to play the church. That's it. Said, just step back and just stop trying to work. That's it. Aside from that, we're doing a great job. He said every single person that's came in here, they may have left for religious reasons, they may have left and just not wanted to come back, but he said they've always left with the thought of, this isn't the Jesus I was raised with in their mind. He said they left knowing who I really was. He said whether they come back or not, that seed is planted. We did a good job. Every single person that has came in here has been 100% success rate. He said, and that's something to be happy about. That's something to be proud about, especially in a moment like this, where we feel like we're suffering, where we feel like we're on a downhill slope and we're just going to keep going downhill. We can look at that and think, if God said that that's 100% success rate, then, we must be doing something right. We are. We're doing really good. We're doing really good. He said the only thing that needs to happen right now is for us to just step back, let God move, enjoy the fruits of our labor so far, and then just stop trying too hard. And we're good to go. We're set. We don't have to fix anything else. That's it, just those two things. We've already gotten everything else out of the way. We've already gotten every other restriction out of the way. Every other thing that we have to deal with mentally, we've already got that out of the way. Jesus said, let's just, all it is now is just do what you can do. And then, just keep having church, and he said, I'll make it happen. But it won't take 8 years. So it may take a little longer than you might want, but it ain't going to take 8 years. Jesus said, I'm not getting on you. I'm giving you a reason to sigh in relief that all of the stress on your shoulders, everything that is on your minds all the time, whether you're doing a good enough job, whether it be as a husband, or as a mother, or as a son, or as a daughter of God, or as pastors of this church. Jesus said, there's not a thing about you that I don't accept, except for the fact that you guys just won't simply just give me your problems. Actually give me your problems. He said, they're not your problem. As Dad said, God actually said this. God said, don't sweat the petty stuff and don't pet the sweaty stuff. He said, all this stuff you're going through right now is petty. It's small, it's so minute. You guys have nothing to worry about right now. Just let it go. None of this stuff matters. He said, he'll get it done. You guys won't. He said, if you guys try to get it done, we'll be in worse shape than we are right now. He said a lot of us, as a church, we are the hindrance. Spiritually, because we're trying too hard. But he said that he loves us, and he really loves the fact that we do try, but he doesn't want us to try this hard. So I want you to turn the camera off.